What's up, guys? Julian here with another daily, FubsyDaily number 7, I think, or something like that. I just came back from a really fun day. You can hear my voice is kind of hoarse a little bit. I just had a really long weekend, but like a really fun, good weekend. It started, my personal friends know this, not everybody knows yet, but I'm switching jobs. I just started a job like 6 weeks ago, but while I was there working, I had one of my old places. I applied to another place, and that was more my field. Before I was doing collections for Comcast, which is fine. I gotta scoot this back a little bit. What's up, guys? Which is fine. It's collections, right? Like, calling people, asking them for money, all that kind of stuff. It was a good job. Working for Comcast is good, but it's not what I want to do with my life, right? I'm going to school for computer engineering. I want to be a network administrator. I have 2 years down. I got 2 years to go, and so I wanted something more in tech support background, which is where I worked before. And so a buddy of mine posted a posting on Facebook, and I applied, and I did this while I was working at Comcast. Anyway, I got the job, which is sweet, and so I ended up not working on Friday for Comcast. And I left on Thursday, and then on Monday I go back to my new job, and blah blah blah. Anyway, not really. I just got one day off basically, and so I went with Josh, and we went up to Ogden, like an hour away. We took CJ with us, CJ Letterman, and went up to Ogden and had a great time up there with those guys. Went up there maybe around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and played some EDH, and we cubed. It's kind of interesting playing EDH with guys like that because we're all really competitive players. We play every format in a competitive way. We're not really casual players as much. We don't play EDH very much at all, but like. It's just funny playing EDH with those kind of guys because it still gets competitive, but it's not super competitive. It's kind of like taking a break, which is really nice sometimes. I don't know. I imagine it to like a basketball team playing horse like for fun or something like that. I don't really know. I don't know, that probably doesn't make sense at all. Well, like I gotta fix my collar. More like a football team playing frisbee. I don't know. We should have a good time with EDH. I've got my ridiculous EDH deck. For my birthday I got one of the pre-constructed decks, and then I've added like 5 cards to it and called it my own. And I don't know. It's kind of fun. It's just a nice break from the stress of playing Delver in Standard, or playing Delver in Modern, or playing Delver in Legacy, or whatever we're going to be playing. And so they just had a really good time. It was really, really, really fun. And I got to tell you something though. Cubing is not like EDH, right? It's not casual. It is casual, but like. So we did FNM, right? And after FNM, we had a choice to draft M13 with the people who were going to draft, or to have 4 of us just cube and do like a 2v2 two-headed giant. Like, I'm just gonna tell you, like if you ever have that opportunity to cube with like some of the best players in like your state, basically, or to draft, just to be able to draft, pick the cube. Cubing is just an awesome experience, and it's a really good learning experience. I got to cube, so like it was 2v2, right? There was just 4 of us cubing. So my cube partner was the owner of the cube, Aaron Makanura. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, Aaron. He top 8'd a Pro Tour back a couple years ago. So my two-headed giant partner is a Pro Tour top 8er. And I'm learning, and we're sitting there drafting together, and doing two-headed giant, and that was incredible. And I'm playing against Josh, who got 10th place at the last GP here in Salt Lake, and is top 8 at tons of PTQs, and CJ Letterman, who's moneyed I don't know how many tournaments. I mean, like real players. I mean, it's insane. It is really neat, and it's a totally different experience. And I mean, you guys have probably done it before. You probably do it all the time, where you go to draft at FNM, and like I don't know. I mean, obviously everyone has good intentions. It's really fun, but like. It's not stiff competition. It's not tough. Like if you drafted with like 8 really good people that and like you're one of them, and then you draft with like a table of people who don't know what they're doing, you could feel the difference, right? You could just oh, I'm tired. Sorry guys, it's just late. I'm tired. Anyway, you could just feel the difference in what's going on in the draft. It's just different. And I really like cubing. I'm not very good at it because I don't know a lot of the old cards. There was this really funny situation. Okay, so how it was what we did is we had like 16 packs. We had like 4, maybe even 5 16-card packs for each team, right? So like those two had a total of 5 packs, and we had 5 packs. And so you look at the packs together. So you look at the 16 cards. That's upside down, whatever, it doesn't matter. So you and your teammate, right? And you're like, oh, what do you think about this? Oh, maybe we should take these. And you take 2 at any given at a time, right? So like me and my teammate Aaron would be like, oh, let's look at this, and we'll take these 2. Okay, got these 2, ours, and face down, right? and then you pass the pack just straight across the table, and then they pass their pack to you. You look, and you try to memorize the packs, right? So that like when you get the pack back, you know what they took and stuff. And then you take two out of that pack and pass it and stuff like that. And so there was this time where Aaron, my buddy, my buddy, and my teammate Aaron, he's looking at a pack. And he's flicking through it like this, right? And he's like, "Oh, Julian, man, I hope this rotates. Wouldn't that be sweet? I mean, I hope this tables, right, which is there and back again. I hope it comes back though, because that's really sweet, right?" And just kind of moves on. And I'm like, "Yeah, that would be sweet. That'd be so awesome." And he looks at me and he's like, "You have no idea what that card was, do you?" And I'm like, "No, I have no idea. You're absolutely right." Like, and I didn't have any idea, but I didn't want to act like an idiot. But he called me on it, and that's fine, But anyways, I don't know all the old cards as well, but it's still really fun. I still have a really good time with Cube. And I'm learning. I mean, I think I've learned a lot from cubing. Not more than anything else, but I've learned just a lot in general from cubing. I really like it. I think it's really, really fun. And I highly recommend people do it. I have another playgroup that I play with them. I haven't played with them in a long time. They're really, really casual players. They don't ever really play FNM. They just chill at home and play Magic. And we have a cube that we've proxied like half the cards in the cube, probably printed out the whole Power 9 and printed out a whole bunch of cards, just printed everything. And proxied it all because they don't have the money to spend on expensive cards. And that's fun. I really enjoy doing that too. I don't think it really cheapens the experience very much at all. It doesn't make a difference for me. Anyway, so I really enjoy cubing. Blah, blah, blah. That's it for that. Okay, so let's talk about the FNM. Because what happened this weekend is, so Friday, I went out and played Magic all night, FNM. And then on Saturday, there was a Winnabox down in Lehigh, which is another city, like maybe 30 minutes south from Salt Lake. So I played FNM, of course, with Delver, because you play with Delver. And it was funny, because usually FNM is like 2 or maybe 3 really good players, and the rest are just kind of like fun, casual players, but not really competitive. But at that FNM, it was like the guy who top 8 of the Pro Tour, and then Josh, and then CJ, who, like I said before, have both moneyed GPs and day 2 all the time, and and then me, I've top 8'd a couple PTQs, and then the winner of the last PTQ was there, and no, two guys who won PTQs were there who had been on the Pro Tour. It was like the most stacked FNM I'd ever seen in my whole life. There may be 30 people playing on FNM. I would say 12 of them have top 8'd a PTQ, if not maybe more, and then, like I said, top 8 at the Pro Tour, and it was insane. It was so stacked. So I was playing, and ever since my experience in Vegas, where I lost to the same Naya deck twice, I had this like fear of Naya Pod decks with my Delver, and I know that I probably shouldn't. I know that I shouldn't. I've learned, but at that time, even yesterday, this is yesterday because it's Sunday. Yeah. So this is yesterday. I had this fear of Naya decks. Like they'd play like Copperland Gorge into Avacyn's Pilgrim, and I'd just be like, well, I guess I lose. Like, oh, that was fun, right? I just had this big fear of them, and it went to show. Like in the FNM, I went 3-2. Which is like the worst I've done in FNM, and I don't know how long. But it's because it's so stacked, right? I lost to 2 guys who have both won PTQs, so whatever. And they're both playing Naya Pod, and I just had this fear of it, and so I've been playing very timidly. And what I've been doing is I've been holding things in reserve. I've been waiting. I've been saving my Vapor Snags, my mana leaks, and I haven't been running spells out there. I've been keeping mana open and available, and I've just tried to grind them out, kind of slowly and surely take over the game. And I've learned that is just wrong. That is just a wrong way to play that matchup. Because they have Thragtusk, and as soon as if they can stick a Blade Splicer and stick a Birthing Pod, those 2 things, or whatever, or some combination of the Huntmaster and whatever, they just can't lose. They just can't lose. Like, it's just unbelievable how good that is. And so when I was playing FNM, after I was done with FNM, I was really, really disappointed. I lost to the 2 Naya decks, and I was really, man, sorry guys, I'm sorry I keep rubbing my eyes. I'm tired. I have contacts, so they kind of glaze over just a little bit when you're really tired. So I was really nervous. I was really scared about these Naya Pod decks. Not so much for FNM, but because the next day, which is Saturday, now today, which I just finished this, we had the Win-A-Box tournament, where you go down there and you win, and the winner of this tournament wins a box, and I really wanted to win, and I was really worried about these Naya decks. And the whole night I didn't know what to do. So in our Delver deck, in the sideboard, we're running 3 Talrans right now, because Talrand is amazing. Holy crap, that guy is good. The FNM, I wasn't super impressed. I was impressed. I hadn't really played with him, and it was fine. But then when I played him on Saturday today, I'll tell you more about him later. But whoa, that guy's really good. Okay, so So like the whole F&M that night, we're on the drive home. I'm just worried about these stupid Naya decks, and I don't know. I'm like, should I put in a couple Day of Judgment into my sideboard and like a Gideon or two? But that just seems like man, I'm tired. It just seems like overkill. It just seems like too much. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like what I want to be doing. And so I just couldn't figure it out. I just couldn't figure out what to do. But I knew that Drew, my buddy Drew, had beat that Naya deck and then beat another one in the finals in the PTQ. And I just needed to play like that. I needed to be able to at least not mirror exactly what he did, but I needed to mimic it, or I needed to draw from that, from what I learned from that experience. And what he was doing is he was much more aggressive in the way he played against the Naya decks. And so on Saturday, I decided that I was going to try to do that. I was going to try to be more aggressive. And now I'm going to take a little bit of a side note, and I want to talk about the tournament that happened today. So when we showed up, so on the Facebook it said win a box tournament down at this card shop, Epic Puzzles and Games, right? Win a box standard tournament. So now I want you to think about what kind of a tournament you're expecting to show up at, right? So what are you thinking? So I'll tell you what Josh and I both thought, and what most people thought when they showed up there, was it was going to be a Swiss tournament where the winner gets a box and then prizes trickle down from there, right? And so we had 18 people show up. So we thought, okay, 18 people, that's like 4 rounds. You could like cut to top 4 if you want to and call it a day. But it turns out what they were doing instead is they were doing pods. They were doing every 8 people, or maybe every 10, whatever, was like a pod. And like they would play 3 rounds, and then the winner would get a box of standard. And that's just not, it's $15, right? And that's just not quite what we had signed up for. I'm going to be honest, I didn't mind that much. I didn't really care either way. I felt pretty confident with my deck. But there were a couple players there who were very concerned about that because they didn't feel like it was advertised correctly. And they said that had they known that that was how the tournament was going to be run, they wouldn't have played. And that's fair. I think the reason that they say that is because in that kind of a tournament where it's just 3 rounds, and the winner gets a box, right? You pay $15, you show up, you play your first round and you lose, you're done. It might as well be single elimination. It's not, but it might as well be single elimination, right? You can't get first place now. And so you just leave. You're just done. You just walk away. And I was like, oh, that's a lame waste. But like with Swiss, you can lose a round. You can even maybe lose 2 rounds, maybe. And you're okay, and you can keep winning. So let's say if you're able to lose 2 rounds before you have to drop, then you're playing 2 rounds of Magic at least, and hopefully you win one of them, right? You're playing for 3. It's just a longer and better experience, and there's more of a chance you're going to be able to get that box. It's just, just better saturation. And it's kind of like the WoW TCG, how like their standard or their equivalent of standard is they play one game rounds. They don't even sideboard. They don't play 2 out of 3. They just play 1 game, and that's it. So like, and in WoW, I don't know about you guys know this compared to Magic. So Magic, you mulligan from 7 to 6 to 5 to 4 to 3, right? So in WoW, it's a little bit different because you can take any card in your hand. WoW, just take Magic. Think Magic, exactly what Magic is. But with WoW, it's like the exact same thing, but the difference is, a couple differences. One of the differences is that you can take any card in your hand and place it face down on the table, and you can use it as land, as a mana, as a resource. Obviously, you lose the card forever. Once it's down there, it stays down there for the rest of the game. But it's kind of like interesting. Can you imagine that in Magic? Like if you just top decking, I guess you keep 2 lands and then you start, runner, hero, blade holds or something like that. You could if you need to, play one of those face down as a mana, as a colorless mana. I like that aspect of WoW. But in WoW, that means because of that, you can only mulligan once, and you get to mulligan back to 7. So you go from 7 to 7 again, but that's it. You only get 1 mulligan. So can you imagine in WoW, like if your opener, 7, has no, they call them quests, but like no land in it, right? So then you mulligan, go back to 7, no land again, done, you're it, that's it. Sorry. And then you lose that game, just that game, not even whole match, whatever, just not even more than 1 game, just 1 game against that guy. That's it, you lost the whole match. A lot of them are single elimination, you're out. I hate that. Like that bugs me. Anyway, so in this tournament, there was this big issue, right? That some people were like, no, I was here for the pods. Because then what happens, the store owner asked, hey, do you guys mind if we switch it, and we do Swiss? Because it seems like the majority of people would prefer it to be a full Swiss tournament. And there are a couple people there who said, no, because I planned for these to only be 3 rounds. They said, I only planned to be here for 3 hours. Because some people knew, like, what happened is we don't usually go to that shop. It was far away. The regulars at that shop knew. because they had asked, but the people who didn't go to that shop regularly just didn't know, right? So we're not making like a huge deal. We're not like fighting and like we want our money back and we're boycotting. Not that, right? We were just expressing concern. And the shop owner is a really cool guy. He's my age. He's really really cool, and so we were just expressing our concern and then just asking, hey, how would you feel if we did it like this? We feel like this would be better, and he was totally open for something like that, right? So we're chatting with him. Turns out some people can't because they planned on only 3 rounds. Other people really wanted the whole Swiss tournament. So the store did what I thought was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen ever. So the first thing they said was, okay, from now on, we're only going to do Swiss going forward. They're going to start doing one of these like every week, right? From going forward, we're only going to do Swiss. We're not going to do these 8-man pods, right? Just Swiss. But for today, because we promised these 8-mans, what we're going to do is we're going to run our 2 pods. Winners each get a box. Then after that, this is so awesome. These guys are so cool. Then after that tournament, we're going to have another Swiss tournament for another box. Anybody who's in these first 2 tournaments, anybody who's in who paid their $15 in there gets free admission into the next one. Perfect. So that way we get to play a bunch of Magic, and we get to, the opportunity to win a box. We get to play the way we want to play, and there's more boxes to be won. And they kind of took that on themselves. They said, okay, well, they kind of took ownership of that, saying, okay, we kind of messed up because we didn't make it clear what was happening. Obviously, it wasn't clear enough because there was confusion, but they also didn't want to say, we just totally effed up and it's our fault 100%, whatever. But I think they did that in a very good way. And that type of recovery, that type of implementation is so critical to me for card shops, for the great card shops, ones you want to keep going back to. My other example is we had a 1K tournament up at Game Grid. This was the first time I'd ever been to Game Grid. They had a 1K, like $1,000 tournament. And we went up there, and only like 12 people showed up for this tournament. Or maybe 11 people showed up for this tournament. And they charged like $10 to get in or something like that. And they were expecting 50 people. Maybe not, maybe 10, maybe it was $20 to get in. But anyway, they expected like 60 people, or they were expecting PTQ sized people to show up for this $1,000. And it wasn't just 1,000 and that was it. It was like 1,000 and then like a box a second. And like it was a big money tournament or something like that. And we 12 people showed up. Because in Utah it's kind of weird, like the more prestigious the tournament is, the bigger the grand prize is for these tournaments, the less people that show up. Which is just bizarre. But it's because people don't want to compete against the best players, I guess. I don't really know what happens there. Because the FNM, or the equivalent thereof, Monday Night Magic or Thursday Night Magic, you easily get 30 or 40 people to go to one of those. And there's 8 shops in this valley. There's 8 shops within like a 30 square mile radius. Probably 8 shops, right? At least 6. And they're all running tournaments every night for $5 or free. And they're all getting 30 people, 40 people to all of them, right? And these Saturday tournaments, game days, get a bunch of people, all that kind of stuff. But as soon as there's a 1K, or as soon as there's a win-it-all type tournament, no one will go. They're just too scared. And that kind of bugs me. Anyway, so we're at the Game Grid, this 1K tournament. This was back a couple months ago. And the owner of Game Grid said, well, I promised $1,000 to first place. And there's only 12 of you. But I promised $1,000. So it's gonna happen. We're gonna take the hit. And he still ran his $1,000 tournament with 12 people. 12 people. It was maybe more, maybe 14 people. It was insane. It was insane what he did. And so what we did, this sounds so silly, right? But we played 3 or 4 rounds, cut to top 8, and then the top 8 chopped it. And we all got $150 or something like that. It was just, anyway, I don't want to say I feel bad. It felt weird. It felt weird taking that money. It was just such good value, right? You just show up and you paid $25 or $20 and you walked away with $150. It was just, I had to win 2 rounds. I won 2, then I drew, and I was in. It was just silly. But the big thing here is that the guy stuck to his guns. Now he also added an addendum, saying if we run one of these again, we're going to have to put a minimum player limit, right? And make that clear, saying, hey, we're gonna have a 1K, but there's only gonna be $1,000 if 35 people show up or whatever, right? But he didn't put that on the announcement, and we didn't make a fuss, right? I'm not gonna make a fuss about it, but he just said that. He was like, well, there's only 12 of you here, but we're gonna do this $1,000 because that's what I said I would do, and so we're gonna play for it. It was insane. It was awesome. I had a lot of respect for stores like that. I had a bad experience at another store where it was a legacy tournament, and the winner got an underground C as long as there were more than 10 people there. because Legacy is tough to play, right? And we got like 13 people, maybe yeah, 13 people showed up, and we played everything out. And then the owner of the store wasn't there that day; he was out of town, so he had his normal lackeys just running the store, right? And they didn't really know what was going on. They just knew that the winner got the Underground Sea. So at the end of the tournament, we had like 4 rounds, cut to top 8, whatever, top 4, and played for the Underground Sea. So the winner got the Underground Sea, and that was it. It was like a $20 tournament. And that was it. No other prizes. None. Zero. No prizes were given out except for that. And we were asking the people that worked there, like, what's going on? Of course, there has to be other prizes. You can't just give out an Underground Sea. And they said, oh, that's what the owner said. That's what the owner said. So we ended up calling the owner and saying, hey, this is ridiculous. And this is not acceptable. And we're not going to come back and play here again if this happens. So we threw in like 6 packs. And it was like, so like second place got like 3, and then third and fourth got like 2 and 1 or something. I mean, it just bugged me. I realized, I don't know, maybe I'm just venting, and maybe it doesn't make sense to you guys, but like the stores that are willing to bend over backwards sometimes to help you out are the ones that get your business over and over and over again. I'm not saying that they have to do that every time. I'm not saying that if you're not pleased with your prize support once, then that's it. Then you need to get better prizes, and you need to get a couple bonfires for your troubles. And I'm not saying that always has to happen. But the stores who stick to their guns, and the stores who really reward the players, and who take a hit every now and then, that's where I want to go. That's where I want to be. And I think as a store owner, I think that you need that you should be able to do that. Now, I understand there's money. I understand it's not free, but I think it really helps. At that same store, the Legacy tournament, there was a while there where they would run like 12-man draft pods or something like that. It was ugly. And so I draft, and I 3-0'd the draft, right? And that was it. They didn't have a 4th round because they were closing. So I 3-0'd the draft, right? I went 2-0, 2-0, 2-0 because it was easy. Crushed everybody. And I got a pack. I got one. I paid $12, and I got 1 pack. And I was just furious. I was just mad. Because one pack for 3 rounds, and I mean, anyway, I'm just venting now. It doesn't matter as much. But the moral of the story is the stores who are able to do that, the stores who are able to contribute in that way, and who are able to take the hits every now and then, the ones who are helping people out, the ones who understand, I prefer that. That really helps me want to be there, and that really helps me want to bring other people to that store. The only downside to these 2 stores, to Epic and to Game Grid, the only downside is they're far away. They're really far away from my house. There's a game store about 10 minutes from my house, another one about 12 minutes, another one 15 minutes. There's like I said, 6. They're really close. And then those 2, like my favorite 2 stores, one of them is an hour away, and the other one's like 40 minutes away. And so it's a little bit of a bummer because it's just easy to go to this store that's really close by. And that's a fine store. It's a fine store. They check all their boxes, make sure everything's correct. It's well lit, and it's clean, and it's fine. But it's just not spectacular. It's just normal. Okay, so done with that. Let's go back now. Let's backtrack to the tournament today. Okay, so I'm playing this winning box, and round 1 I play against Naya. And I was really worried, right? I was like, oh great, this is gonna suck, But I knew that I wanted to play more aggressively, and I wanted to try that style. Whew, sorry guys. I wanted to try to be more aggressive. So I like Jutaxian probed him. I can't remember exactly what the hand was. But on turn 1, I played a Delver and I Jutaxian probed him, right? And he kept a really slow hand. It was something like a bunch of lands, bird, and then like Thragtusk, Birthing Pod, maybe? Something like that. And so he played his bird, and I had the gut shot. And then he drew, and he played another land, and he played a land that I didn't see in the Jutaxian probe. By the way, this is a little secret, right? When you're Jutaxian probing, obviously write down their hand, right? Now the really good players, the players who are there to be competitive, will play the same land, right? The same basic land, for every color. Like the other blue lands will be the same. So like my Delver deck, all of my blue lands are the unhinged ones, right? Whatever. You can only see a couple of them there. But so all my blue lands are these ones. And not that's Spatial Fortress. They're all these ones, right? I like those ones. But it doesn't matter so much what they are. But the really good players will always have the same color, the same type of lands. And the reason is because when I'm Jutaxian probing people, I'll look and I'll say 2 planes, and then with 2 different planes, right? Like different art. And I'll write down. I'll put like light planes, dark planes, or something like that. And then when they play, whatever they play land, and I'll look, and I'll go, look, they played a planes right there. But it's different than the other 2 planes that I saw. Different art. So it must be a different card, so they drew that card. So that's why you should play the same lands, and you should notice that when you're taxing, probing, or duressing people. Pay attention not only to what lands they have, but like the art or like the language if they're two different languages, right? So that's why you always play. I try and play the same. Like right now, I have like my Geisses and drafts. I have 3 in English and 1 in an Asian language, and that kind of bugs me. Like every time I draw that one, I'm like, oh, I wish this was English, right? It's just good to be uniform like that when you want to be really competitive, just for those little tiny advantages. So anyway, so I probed him and I saw these things, and then he played a land that I didn't see in the probe. I knew he had drawn another land. And so I knew that I wanted to try to be more and more aggressive, and I didn't want to durdle around. I didn't want to wait. So at the end of his turn 2, I just flash in a Snapcaster Mage, right? Snapcaster Mage, end of your turn. Untap, flip the Delver, swing for 5. And I just had to try to kill him. Because I found out that Thragtusk, I was trying to deal, so this is like really insight for Delver players. I was trying to deal with Thragtusk, like actually deal with the card, right? I was like, oh, I could like dismember and then Vapor Snag the token, or I could do this or that, or they played that, they gain 5 life, oh man, I gotta chump this, and I gotta do this, and all these different ways to deal with Thragtusk. And I've learned that the proper response from Delver to Naya Pod is actually to race, and to become more aggressive. So that when they play their Thragtusk, instead of going from like 18 life to 23 life, they should be going from like 6 life to 11 life. Something like that, right? It's still a big increase. But you should be hitting them a lot, hitting them every turn, hitting them for everything you can. And just trying to almost race like that. Because what it does is it makes them try and deal with you instead of you dealing with them. Because Delver, once it's on its back feet, I mean, it recovers well, but it depends, right? It really depends on how it's losing. Because it has cards like Sword, and it has cards like Snapcaster Mage to get itself back into the game. But it does that with things like card advantage, or like against control decks who counter a lot of things or destroy their lands, that kind of stuff. Delver's great at recovering against those kind of decks. Against decks that just fill a board, Delver can't really recover from that, ever. That's why the whole Bladesplaster Huntmaster deck testing is just so good. It's just so hard to, sorry, what's up my nose? It's so hard to beat that kind of a deck. It's so hard to come back from that good of card advantage. So instead, what we should be doing is we should be racing. So what I did is, on turn 3, I used to keep. On turn 3, I used to keep open cards and like go for like the Snapcaster Thought Scour plan, or like Snapcaster Vapor Snag or Mana Leak or something like that. And now, of course, it's situational. Hang on, I'm going to pause for just a second. Okay, sorry about that. I had to pause it for a second. My nose is just going nuts on me right now. We just got this rabbit down here, and I'm allergic to rabbits. And anyway, So I used to keep my 3 mana open for something else, right? But now, like today, every time I played against Naya Pod, and I had 3 mana, I would just play a sword, right? It'd be like I have like a Delver, and like that's it, and maybe the Snapcaster Mage. Turn 3, I'm playing a sword, and because I just need to play that sword. And then on turn 4, I'm equip it, and I'm just swinging, right? And if they have to block and kill, like if they have to block my Snapcaster Mage with like something I did a lot, was not a lot, right? Was like I had to equip my Snapcaster Mage at swing, and they block with like a Golem token, and then I gut shot the Blade Splicer, and so the Golem token and the Snapcaster would trade. Just okay, doing that. Now the board is empty again. You play guy, I still have this sword here. Then I can end of turn creatures. That's a big power of Delver, right? Is they can mana link, or they can end of turn creatures. Restoration Angel, Snapcaster Mage, untap, equip that thing, and swing again, or like make a more than hunt token. So I started doing that. I started becoming like really hyper aggressive against these Naya decks, and it was awesome. Like it was like a whole different game. I wish I could go back to Las Vegas again and like replay that top 8. And I know that's lame, just living in the past all the time, right? But like just with the new knowledge that I have, that's kind of the secret. Now sometimes they just win anyway, right? But one of the big things that we did is I put in 2 Blade Splicers into my sideboard and took out the Timelies and put in Blade Splicer. Whew! That made a difference. Because all of a sudden your ground is just powerful as their ground, and they can't attack through that. And then you're angeling your Blade Splicer, and like that's really good. I don't think it's good enough. I still think Geist Saint Draft in general is better in your main deck. I really like Geist of Saint Draft. I know the Delver had this big debate right now between Blade Splicer or Geist of Saint Draft, and I choose Geist of Saint Draft in the main deck. I prefer him because if it's not against a Naya deck, he's just amazing. He's so good in the mirror. He's just so good, and against most decks, he's just unbelievably good. And against Naya, well, you just take him out, right? He's just not that great. And you bring in Talrand and you bring in Blade Splicer, and I think that's fine. I'm pretty happy with doing that. And so, yeah, so I did that against the Naya, just super, super aggressive. Then, like, game 2, I got Talrand, right? So, and like I was slowing down, I was doing things, we were trading off, so the board was pretty much empty, right? So then I play on turn 4, I play Talrand. And then on turn 5, I untap with Talrand, and I play a land. And I have like 4 spells in my hand, right? And so I go like Jataxian Probe, draw a card. Got another Jataxian Probe. Jataxian Probe, right? I'm making these 2/2s. You know, draw another card. Ponder. Ponder into a Thought Scour. Thought Scour. Thought Scour into a Ponder. Play the Ponder. And then like I get like maybe another Jataxian Probe or like a Gut Shot or something. Can't remember what it was. But yeah, so I got all this ridiculous. So I got like 6 of these 2/2s in like one turn. Or something, yeah, like one turn. It's unbelievable. And so I actually like used all of my mana. It was just a great turn. I used all of my mana, and I didn't have any left mana, but I still had some spells in my hand I was going to cast the next turn. I think it was ridiculous. So then he untaps, and he plays Thragtusk, gains life, right? And I'm like, that's fine. I don't care, right? Then I untap, and I play, like, all these things. I play like a bunch of spells. I mean, I attack with everything, and he take him from like 20 down to like 8, right? It was unreal. And then I had a bunch of instants, right? I didn't have any sorceries. So then, at the end of my turn, because he had like infinite mana, right? No, then during his turn, he untaps, and then, because I was tapped kind of low, he goes, all right, I will Angel the Thragtusk. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And then he goes, cast another Restoration Angel. And I'm like, okay, let's just Vapor Snag your Thragtusk in response. Then I'll Vapor Snag that Angel, make 2 more 2/2s. And then I'm just gonna Gut Shot you, make another 2/2, and then I'm gonna Mutagenic Growth this, make another 2/2, right? Just unbelievable. And so then, then I Angeled and I flickered. Oh, then I Angel, flickered my Snapcaster Mage and Gut Shot. I mean, it was unbelievable. And then I untapped and I swung for like 20. I mean, it was like disgusting, maybe 24. And like, it was just insane, the power from that Talrand card. Holy crap. That guy was amazing. Man, whew. It was really, really good. And so I just did that. So the moral of the story is I started becoming much more aggressive. Much more aggressive against these Naya decks, against pod decks in general. And it turned out really well. Did I win my box? No. No, I did not. In round 3, because I had a 10-man pod, so there were 3 undefeateds going into round 3, and I was one of the 3. So I was 2-0, right? That's a big deal. And I got paired down against Infect, like green and mono green Infect that has like the spell sketch and stuff. And I mulliganed to 4 twice, and I just lost. That sucked. That didn't feel very good at all, especially because my opponent wasn't even I paired down, so we couldn't even like draw and like split the box or something. I mean, it sucked. But whatever, that's Magic, right? It was really disappointing though. And then the next tournament, I lost to Delver. We played the mirror match, and he just drew a little bit better than me. I had like a batter skull I could win. I mean, it didn't really matter that much. I don't think I made any misplays. He was a really cool guy, and he and I talked about it afterwards. We went to 3. I mean, and it was really intense. Like game 1, like he just barely beat me. You know how it is, right? And then in game 2, I Talranded him just out of the game. I mean, it wasn't even close. And then game 3. It was one of those, like, you kill me this turn, or else I'm going to kill you next turn kind of things. And he got me. And that's fine. And we talked about it. And I didn't see any places I had made mistakes, but maybe they existed. I just didn't see them. I don't really know. But either way, that's Magic, right? It just happens sometimes. And that's fine. So I didn't win that box either. So I paid $15 and I didn't win anything. But that's fine, because Josh Snow ended up winning his box because he and I got in different pods in the first one, and he won his pod. And then the next one, he got to the finals, and he and the other kids split the box, because there was like a box for first, and then like 15 packs or something like that for second, something like that. And so they just combined it and then just chopped it right in the middle, and they just got. So Josh ended up with like $160 in store credit. He didn't do the packs; he took the store credit instead. And then he ended up getting the packs in. He ended up. So it was because Josh is dumb, and he kept switching back and forth. He was like, "Should I get an Underground Sea or should I just get packs?" And blah blah blah. He ended up walking away with 61 packs. For $15, which is sweet. That's an investment, right? And I learned a lot. I learned about how to beat the Naya deck. Now, here's what else I learned, right? And this is the more important lesson, I guess you could say, from this Magic experience, from today's experience, because I'm still a new player in a lot of ways. I do well. I understand. Like right now, my Magic level is similar to my chess. Not as good. No, my chess is not as good as Magic, but like. with Magic, what happened is I could win most games because my deck is better or whatever, but because of repetition and because I just knew what to do in situations. Like I just did the same thing in situations all the time, right? And it was just the right play. I played against a mono. By the way, side note, played against a mono red player playing that Krenko deck. Turns out they can't beat like 4 Restoration Angels because I got the quad Restoration Angel. I was almost dead too. I was getting low. Man, I was like a 9 or 10. And then I just went Restoration Angel, and then again, and then again, and then again. That was really good. Anyway, so the big thing so like I said, so I kind of run on autopilot a little bit, where it's just like I just learn things. So for example, the sword, like sword one's a bad example. A good example might be against the Delver Mirror, right? They play Delver Secrets, you just got shot at, right? And like I would do that, of course, because it was the right play, but not just because it was like the right play. I would do it because I'd learned to do that from Josh. Josh did it, so I just mechanically gut shot that Delver Secrets, gut shot the Delver Secrets, right? Now it's an interesting example because that's always the right thing to do. But I was just doing things on autopilot, right? For a long time, before Restoration Angel was a card, right? Back before that in Delver, Josh would do this thing where he would almost always end of turn a Snapcaster Mage against you. So you'd have to tap out to mana link it so then he could untap and play his Geistland Draft. Or if he didn't, he'd just start swinging in for 2. And it was really good. And so I would do that. I would just go on autopilot. And like I played against Delver, he'd go turn 1 Delver, and I go turn 1 this. And he go turn 2 this, and I go turn 2 this. And then here his turn 3, he wouldn't do anything, right? And then I would just end of turn Snapcaster. I would just always do it. Just always. And just autopilot, right? I was just doing those decisions because I'd seen them done before and I knew what to do in those situations. But today was different, and I felt like I got to the next level of Magic because I started thinking more about the game itself. And I know that sounds really silly, and I think that people underestimate that. I don't know. I think they overestimate themselves and their own abilities. Because people say, oh yeah, I'm always 2 or 3 turns ahead. I'm always thinking about what the other player's doing. I'm always analyzing the board state. I don't think they really are, though. You're not really analyzing the board state. Especially when you're playing kind of fast. You're just not doing it, right? And I've learned from chess what really analyzing it looks like. What actually happens when you're analyzing. If you don't know, if you're like not sure, you should play somebody in Magic and then play them in chess, right? Because in Magic, they'll just kind of like, boom, mana leak this, Delver. And they'll kind of think, and they'll be like, sort of could swing, right? They're just autopilot. They're actually just doing repetition. They're just regurgitating things they've done before 95% of the time. I don't know, a lot, most of the time. When you play them in chess, that's when they sit and they think and they look at every option, and you'll notice a significant change in their mannerisms. That's what really analyzing the board state is. That's what it really looks like. That's what really is happening. Notice what you do when you play chess, right? Notice how many things you're thinking about. Now, it's really easy with chess because everything is public. It's all right in front of you, right? And in Magic, it's not. There's hidden information, right? We've talked about this before. So, but it's really important to be able to actually do that and to be able to actually use variables in your game. So against Naya Pod, I'm not going to tell you to always end of turn a Snapcaster Mage against them. That's usually not the right play. But when I Jataxian probed 1 and saw he kept a very slow hand, I did it because I needed to whittle his life down as fast as I could. So I knew that was the correct play to make in that situation. In another situation against a different Naya deck, I won't do that, right? Analyzing that board state is something that I thought that I had done, that I was doing, but I really wasn't. Until today, I started really looking at it. I started sideboarding differently. I've learned that sideboard plans... Today was like a really cool day for me with Magic. Because... Sorry guys, I got this stupid rabbit and my nose is just... Sorry guys, man, my nose is just going nuts. I don't want to like pick my nose and blow my nose right here in front of you guys, so I just paused it again. Okay, so really analyzing the board state and really thinking about what you're doing. So here's what I've learned, right? So I learned analyzing what's happening during the game, right? And actually making plays based on that, based on what you've seen in their hand, based on what you've seen, how you've seen them play, knowing if you should be more and more aggressive or if you should slow down a little bit, right? And I know it sounds silly to say that I just learned this, because as I'm saying this to you, all of you are going to be like, yeah, I already knew that, duh. But, like, you think you know it, but you don't really know it. I'm going to guess most of you don't really know it, because I didn't know it until today. I didn't really get it until today. Another thing is sideboarding. And, like, people are really bad at sideboarding, right? Almost everybody's really bad at it. I'm really bad at it. But I'm learning really well. I've really started to get like wrap my mind around it and realize that it's not always the same. That against some players, I'll keep in mana leaks. Against other players, I won't, even if they're playing the same deck. And really I'm trying now to really figure that out. And as I'm looking through my deck, I'm thinking about them as much as I'm thinking about their deck. And I'm thinking, okay, do I keep in mana leak against this person? Do I keep in vapor snag against this person? And sometimes I keep in vapor snag just because it ticks people off, and it puts them on tilt. Not always, right? But sometimes I'll do that. I'll keep it like 2, and I'll just snag something, just because it pisses them off, right? And not to say I'm playing to make them mad, but it puts them on tilt, right? And it helps me win. And the last thing I learned from CJ. I learned it on Friday, which is he was playing Rug Pod just for fun, right? And he just happened to have a weird draw game 1, where he had a Birthing Pod out, but he got an Inferno Titan really fast, and he just killed his opponent with Inferno Titan. So his opponent sideboarded against Inferno Titan. But CJ only has 1. That's not his main board. That's not his main way he kills people. It's just another way to do it, right? And he mentioned to me that a lot of times people will sideboard against what they saw and not actually think about what the deck is. And I did that. So like today, I almost caught myself. My first Naya deck I played, that first game, I didn't see any red, right? And I was like, oh, so maybe he doesn't have red. But I was like, oh, but I probed him and I saw a Huntmaster of the Fells. So maybe he does have red. So I was trying to sideboard against what I'd seen. I'm like, oh, he doesn't have Strangler guys, doesn't have this. And then I'm like, wait, just because I didn't see it in the top 10 cards, right? I need to sideboard. I need to know what this deck is. And I do know what this deck is. I know what Naya looks like. I know they run like 100 bonfires and Strangler Geists and things like that, right? I know what's happening here. I need to sideboard accordingly to what I think his deck is, and not so much of just what I've seen, right? You can't sideboard against the Zombies players thinking they're not playing Blood Artists because you didn't see one. They probably are. And I'm like, no, most likely are, because it's just a good card, right? Now, what's tricky is, of course, the blue-white mid-range deck, because that deck looks just like Delver, except it doesn't have the card Delver of Secrets in it. So you're bringing in your Gut Shots, and you're bringing in your Tragic Slips, and they don't even have Delvers. So that's tricky. So those are 3 things that I learned today. Was just truthfully analyzing board states, and then really sideboarding against the deck and against the person, and also understanding what the deck is that you're playing against, and less what the cards you've seen. And it really helped out. It really helped me out a lot. Now, the last thing I want to talk about a little bit is feedback that Josh gave me on the drive home today, which is that sometimes I wear my emotions on my sleeve. This is another thing where people are going to say they don't do this. You're going to say you understand this, right? You're going to say, duh, I already get this. But just chill out. Just chill out and really self-analyze for a second, right? Really figure out if you're actually doing this or not. Because while you can say, obviously I wouldn't do that, you probably are. Most of you are. And the reason I say most of you are is because I play a ton of Magic, and most people do exactly what I do. Now, which is the obvious, like, if you have, like 3 cards in your hand, you have, like, 3 cards like this. I got 3 cards. And I draw a card, and I'm like, right? And I just do something little like that. God damn, this nose. I really did. Wow, look at that. That really is 5 lands. That's kind of funny. Telegraphing what you've drawn, or telegraphing when you're kind of excited, or telegraphing things like that, right? And like Josh said, wearing your emotion on your sleeve and letting your opponent know how something feels. Or like, I made a mistake against a player where Josh was sitting there next to me, right? And so it was turn 3, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to play the sword or a blade splicer. And so I ended up playing the sword. And then I said, hey, Josh, because we weren't in contention for top 8 at that point. I can't remember. Maybe we were just playing for fun. I don't remember. I played so much Magic today. But I turned to Josh, and I go, hey, Josh, I already made my play, right? So it doesn't matter. But I could have played that, or I could have played this, I'm actually saying that, putting the sword, or this in my hand. So my opponent doesn't know what it is. And I just asked Josh, now that I played the sword, so I can't change my play, you're not going to affect my decision. Would you have done that too, or would you have played this instead? And he didn't answer. He didn't want to answer, right? And he told me later, because it just, like, your opponent picks up on that, right? And picks up on that you're not confident about your play. I don't know if you guys listen to the podcast, The A-Team, but the John Medina has his little quote at the very beginning. It says that one time he was on a feature match, and he made a mistake while he was playing. And he said he just kind of froze, and in his mind he thought, oh crap. He said, act like you know what you're doing. Act like that was deliberate. And that's true. You kind of have to do that. And that's also a big thing in chess, right? Have you ever been playing chess, or maybe another game that's strategic like that? and someone will make a move, right? And they'll be confident about it. They'll be like, yep, boom, right there, yep. And they kind of look at you. And your first instinct is like, oh, crap, like, am I about to walk into a trap? Like, and you're just kind of freaking out. And you're like, oh, man, okay. So, like, he put his queen right there. I can take his queen with my knight. Like, why would he do that? And you look at the board and you're like, I don't understand. Like, what am I going to walk into some trap? Is something bad going to happen to me, you know? Now, if instead your opponent had played it and then gone, oh, shoot, right? Then maybe you know, oh, I could take it because he messed up. Now, sometimes they're going to try next level you, right? And they're going to pretend like they're pissed when they're really not. Whatever, that's garbage. That's called, in Magic, we call those Jedi mind tricks. I don't know. I don't really do them all that much. Like, the only one I'll do is the life total one, which is kind of scumaggy, but whatever. I think it's good. Which is like where maybe somebody, let's say I have a Vapor Snag, right? And I'm, oh, okay, Infect, against the Infect player. That's a good example. So he goes to attack me, and or maybe, oh no, bad, not Infect. Let's say I'm playing against some player. He's got a couple creatures out, right? And like he's thinking about moving to combat. So he's like, move to combat, right? One thing you can do, and I do this, and it's kind of sneaky, but whatever, is like I'll already know, right? Because you're just paying attention, right? And you know how much damage is there. Because you just know. Even in your turn, you like play a land, and you're like, oh, that's 6 damage right there. Pass, go, and you're like, what am I going to do about the 6 damage or whatever? And let's say you have like a Restoration Angel in your hand, which I have a lot, you know, as Delver. Sometimes they'll be like, okay, move to combat, and I'll just go, yeah, 6, you know, and I'll like, is it 6? Before they've tapped their guys or you know anything. I'll be like, yeah, 6, and I'll pick up my pen, whatever, pick up my, you know, I don't have a pen in my ear, pick up my pen, 6, and then they're like, oh, because in their mind they're thinking, oh, he doesn't have it, oh, yeah, 6, and then you're like, oh, Restoration Angel, block, you know, and you just, I win, or whatever. Sometimes I'll do that guy, but whatever. But in general, there's a lot of other Jedi mind tricks, like Patrick Chapin has a famous one where he did the black command, profane command, whereas like all my legal targets have Swamp Walk or whatever, and like things like that, and just trying to psych out your opponent. And in general, I don't think you should do that. Maybe it can work, maybe it can't. I think the best way to play, though, I think the best way to play is to play the same. And that's something I need to work on. But it's something Josh Snow does very well. Which is no matter what's happening in that game, no matter how every time you draw your card, you should draw the same way. Right? You should draw, put it in your hand, or whatever you do, right? But you should do the same every time. It doesn't matter if it's your 12th land in a row, or if it's a Bonfire's back, or if it's a Restoration Angel that you just needed to save your life, right? You should just draw the same every time, because that way your opponent gets no reads on you. You're not trying to like fake him and like oh dang it when it's a good card, because then you don't know if your opponent really bought it or not, and maybe he thinks you're lying and maybe he doesn't, and that's all complicated. Instead, you should just always draw the same. You should always play the same. You should just be consistent in what you do, and it's something that I need to work on. Is not showing my emotion on my sleeve and being more consistent and more methodical and a little bit more robotic almost. You don't have to be a douchebag, right? But you need to be methodical about what you're doing. And what you're going to be doing. I think it's really important. I think that's the most important thing. I think it's more important than trying to trick people with Jedi mind tricks and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's kind of what I had to talk about today. It's a little bit of a ramble, but I had notes, and I think it's really important. I think it's really good information to know and to have and to put into practice. I hope you guys appreciated this video. I hope you guys liked it. Sorry I missed out on the Friday night stream. I went to Ogden. I was there till like 3 in the morning. It was insane. I'm sorry, but I had a good time. But until next time, we will see you later. Peace.